let's go back to the aggregate demand. In the short run, the scenario you ran was simply a 1% of GDP increase in the primary deficit. And you
Right.
didn't specify whether that was a tax cut or a spending increase or what particular kind of tax cut or kind of spending increase. So, but I mean, the argument could be made that certain tax cuts, for example, if you reduce the marginal tax on capital or the marginal tax on labor, you might increase on the supply side, the supply of labor, the supply of investment, and that would have offsetting effects. Whereas, the worst case scenario spending side, you might just be a pure increase in aggregate demand with no offsetting effect on supply. So
Exactly.
were you to make that differentiation, I mean, you want to back to your science fiction. I mean, how much would that change the result if you sort of said, best case tax cut, worst case spending increase? Would that swing the sign of your estimate, or would it just simply make it a little larger, a little smaller, but the sign would remain the same?
Well, no, because again, the intent of the exercise was to measure the gross effect of, or the gross cost of debt independent of the policy. And so to me, what you're describing is exactly spot on. How we design the policy that increases debt affects the gross benefit of what we get out of it. And so to me, what you're saying is, if we were to produce, if we were to increase debt because we had, we designed a policy that, I'm trying to think of something that would spur an investment. Let's say that we were deficit financing an R&D tax credit or 100% bonus depreciation, or something that we were confident actually did change the marginal tax rate on, say, investment or R&D or something like that. We're thinking of that as a net benefit that is outside the scope of our study. And my response would be that should absolutely be part of the calculus for policymakers in terms of what makes sense to deficit finance versus something that you have to pay for. Going back to the very first comment that I made, that there are some policies where it might make sense to deficit finance, others where it might not. The benefits of a policy that you're thinking of might outweigh the costs. And so, in the face of political opposition, it might make sense just to deficit finance something like that, because it's like, even if you deficit finance, we're still going to come out ahead, and it makes sense to do that. I don't think that our study speaks to the net benefits of that. Our study just says, keep in mind what like the gross costs of deficit financing will be.